We're going to be starting, we're going to be in the red book, the old book, and it's on page 26 under Yahweh's calendar. I think it's a few pages, it's a difference between this book and the new book. But in the red book, it's we're on page 26, the Yahweh's calendar. And so before I get started, though, I was looking at a few pages here, and I was considering what we're learning in this book and what Pastor's been teaching us concerning the calendar, Yahweh's calendar, and things like that. And then it kind of just hit me as like, why is time so important? Okay, what's so important about time? And because the world really, they don't care about Yahweh's way. They do their own thing. And we're going to get into some of these definitions about the lunar calendar and the solar calendar. And you'll understand why I kind of started thinking along these lines. But I came to the conclusion in my mind that, and it's something we all know, but time is important because Yahweh says, at this time, I'm going to meet with you. Okay, at these times, I'm going to meet with you. And when you look at time as far as, in relation to Yahweh's plan and the creation for mankind, he created man. He said, I will create man to be like me. We were created for a specific purpose. And he gave us time, and he said, at these times, I'm going to meet with you. So time is important. Okay, so you have to see the importance of the calendar and understanding how Yahweh keeps track of time, because he says, I'm going to meet with you. Okay, and if we don't know how Yahweh does that, then we're not going to meet with Yahweh. Okay, we're going to be somewhere, and Yahweh's like, I'm not there. Okay, I'm not there. No, I was there then. Where were you at? So time is really important. Okay, so Yahweh's calendar, this is page 26 in the red book, says, in the previous pages of this article, we have made a detailed study of what Yahweh's calendar is. Yahweh's calendar year is a sacred year based upon 7 ordained moons. Yahweh begins his year from the new moon of green ears of barley on the 15th day, the 14th at sunset. His Passover begins, which is his first appointed time when his eyes and his heart will be at the house of Yahweh. Okay, so that's important. Okay, extremely important. Okay, we have these, I have a relative, and years ago, it was my older sister. She said, when I told her I was coming to the house of Yahweh for the feast of Passover, this was when my first feast, this was back in 96. Actually, this would have been my second feast in 97, Passover. She's like, oh, yeah, we're going to Passover. It's going to be like in North Carolina this year. And next year it's going to be in like in Mississippi or something. They have rotating locations for their feast and alternating time periods, So it's not, according to the feast. And I was like, what? I had never heard of that. Okay, so for me, just hearing about Passover and all of these things were new to me anyway, because I didn't know anything about the scriptures. I was brought up just believing, as it were. And I was like, a rotating feast? Where is that at? Leviticus 20? No, you got to go to the house of Yahweh. And so I tried to explain that, and it was like, oh, okay, that didn't work. So, but these things are given to us. Okay, so here, top of page 27, it says, each and every feast Yahweh ordains, his appointed times within his sacred year, begins its count from that first new moon in Yahweh's 7-moon year. The moon Abib, the first moon of green ears of barley. And Leviticus chapter 23 lists each of Yahweh's feasts, which are celebrated within the 7 moons of Yahweh's sacred year. Yahweh's feast begins the season when the barley is in the green ear. Unless the barley is in the ear upon Mount Zion, where the new moon appears, then that new moon cannot possibly be the moon of green ears of barley, which Yahweh says is the first moon of his sacred year. So, Pastor's writing so that we can understand how specific Yahweh is. Okay, so you can't see the moon and then see the green ear of barley and then say, okay, that moon was the first moon, okay? You have to see the green ear, and then the moon will start the count. Very specific. Yahweh makes it very simple, okay? Very simple. Did he say go look at the calendar and see when the new moon is? Or did he say go out and look for the new moon? Go look for it. He says watch. Okay? Go and see it with your eyes. Okay? Go and look for this new moon. Continuing on here, It says, then in Yahweh's seventh moon, Yahweh's year ends on the last great day at the end of the Feast of Tabernacles. Yahweh's way is so simple to those who want to serve Yahweh with all their hearts, but it is a burden, a definite burden, to those who do not. Okay, so it's a burden to those who do not. So again, meeting with Yahweh. Okay, meeting with Yahweh, learning these things. And I just mentioned a little while ago how, like, of course, I had no scriptural understanding. Okay, never really tried to read the Bible or anything. And some of us were like that. Some of us read the Bible, but had no idea what the Sabbath was. I never heard the term Sabbath until I was 22 years old. That's when I first heard the term Sabbath. And I'm like, what's that? Oh, it's keeping the seventh day holy. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. So Sunday, right? No. Okay, never even looked up Saturday, Sunday in the dictionary. Never knew those things. Okay, never met with Yahweh. Okay, never knew how to. Never knew why I should. But in Isaiah 58, because I want to point something out really quick, because Pastor just said something here that's really important. What is Isaiah 58? What verse is it? 13. Praise Yahweh. Isaiah 58:13. So let me read what Pastor said again before I read this scripture here. Okay, so what Pastor said here, he says, Yahweh's way is so simple to those who want to serve Yahweh with all their hearts, but it is a definite burden to those who do not. And so here, actually, I want to read a couple verses up. I'm going to start in verse 11. Okay, and so let me read first and then I'll talk about it. It says, Yahweh will guide you continually and satisfy your soul in drought and make fat or strengthen your bones. You will be like a watered garden and like a spring of water whose waters do not fail. And those of you will rebuild the old waste places and will raise up the foundations of many generations. Okay, consider what that's saying there. Raise up the foundations of many generations, and you will be called the the repairer of the breach, the restorer of the streets to dwell in. If you turn away your foot from breaking the Sabbath, okay, the Sabbath, this is when Yahweh says that he will meet with us. You have to know when. If you will turn away your foot from breaking the Sabbath, from doing your own pleasure, your own business, your own pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight. Okay, not just call the Sabbath a delight. What does it mean to call the Sabbath a delight? Not just say, oh, the Sabbath is a delight. It means to do the work of Yahweh, to teach, to serve one another. That's what this is talking about. Okay, that's calling the Sabbath a delight, actually learning to do the work of Yahweh, learning the way of Yahweh and serving one another. The holy day of Yahweh honorable, and will honor him by not doing your own ways, not finding your own pleasure, nor engaging in idle conversation. Then you will find your joy in Yahweh, and I will cause you to ride on the high places of the earth and feed you with the heritage of Jacob, your father, for the mouth of Yahweh has spoken it. And so this is what we can look forward to when we know how to keep time Yahweh's way, when we meet with Yahweh on his Sabbath day. Okay, meeting with Yahweh like he said. Now, here's the other. Okay, here's the other. Isaiah chapter 1. Okay, here's the other. This is when you don't keep Yahweh's time correctly. Isaiah 1 verse 13. Yahweh says here, do not bring any more vain, idolatrous oblations. Your incense is abominable to me. The new moons and Sabbaths, your calling of an assembly, I cannot endure. Even the solemn meeting is iniquity. Your new moons, okay, the first of your solar, the solar months, okay, these are your solar months, where on the solar calendar, the new moon may be like on the 14th or 15th or something like that, but their new moons, the beginning of their solar months, and your appointed feast, my soul hates. They are a trouble to me. I am weary of bearing them. So when you spread forth your hands, I will hide my eyes from you. Yes, even though you make many prayers, I will not listen, for your hands are full of blood. Remember what we saw yesterday, the video? The preacher was saying, don't touch the unclean thing and be received. Right? Don't touch it. Don't mind this stuff right here on my lip, though. Right? He's telling you, believe. If you don't believe in the rapture, you don't believe your scriptures. Yahweh says, my soul hates you, making all of these prayers and these false teaching. This whole thing is iniquity. Okay, I'm not with you. He says here, your hands are full of blood. Verse 16, wash yourselves and make yourselves clean and put away the evil of your doings from before my eyes. Cease to do evil. Learn to do righteousness. Learn to keep my laws is what he's saying here. Right? Isn't righteousness the keeping of Yahweh's laws? Learn to keep my laws. Very simple. Deuteronomy 6 what? 25. Deuteronomy 6:25. Learn to keep my laws. Okay? Learn to keep them. Seek judgment. Relieve the oppressed. Judge the fatherless. Plead for the widow. Come now, let us reason together, says Yahweh. Though your sins be like scarlet, they will be as white as snow. Though they are red like crimson, they will be as wool. If you will be willing and obedient, you will eat the fruit of the land. Last verse here. But if you refuse and rebel, you will be devoured by the sword, for the mouth of Yahweh has spoken it. Okay? Meet with Yahweh. Meet with Yahweh. And he says, call my Sabbath a delight. Do my work. Okay? Rejoice with me. Call this a delight. Or you will be devoured by the sword, by war, by all of the diseases, everything that we're creating because we're not being obedient to Yahweh. And what's interesting is that I never really, related all of this information really to time, to actually understanding why it's important to appreciate Yahweh's calendar. Okay, we have to appreciate it. This is how we meet with Yahweh. Okay, it's how we meet with Yahweh. Here it says we're going to talk about three main calendars here. Okay, types of calendars. There are three main types of calendars: the lunar, the solar, and the lunisolar. Lunar. The lunar calendar preserves the length of the lunar or synodic month, which is 29 and a half days, and disregards the length of the solar year. The Mohammedan calendar is a good example. Most of the cultural groups using a lunar calendar reckon the months as having 29 and 30 days alternately, thus averaging 29 and a half days. In using the lunar calendar, the lunar year has been taken as 12 times 29 and a half, or 354 days. A lunar year of 12 synodic months actually has 354.367056 days. The decimal here is unaccounted for in the calendar and amounts to 11.02 days in 30 lunar years. By intercalculating or inserting 11 days in every 30 lunar years, this calendar becomes very accurate with respect to the moon. The main difficulty, now this is one of the important parts here, it says that the main difficulty with it is that its year is about 11 days shorter than the solar year, causing the seasons to occur at earlier and earlier dates through the years. Hence, it is impractical in civil affairs. Well, Yahweh, your way interferes with what we do. Okay? I mean, how can we have like an Oktoberfest, if that falls earlier in the year because of these lunar days here? How can we do this and that with the way that, you calculate your days? So the problem with the lunar calendar is that it interferes with civil affairs. We're supposed to be getting in unity with Yahweh, but we're trying to make Yahweh's, the way that Yahweh created things get in line with what we do. We're trying to make it work, make it fit, and it doesn't. Take away an hour, add a day, we got leap year. We got all of this foolishness to try to, make things work. Instead of doing what Yahweh says to do. All you got to do is go outside and look up and look for the moon. Just go outside and look up. Oh, well, Yahweh, no, that's too complicated. I want to insert a year every, 3rd, 6th, 11th, and 19th year here. Let's insert some years and days here. It's absolutely ridiculous. Here's solar. The solar calendar holds to the length of the solar year as nearly as possible, but it disregards the lunar month and assumes a set length of month. Yahweh's calendar is the lunar calendar. The lunar calendar becomes very accurate with respect to the moon, but it is impractical in civil affairs. Yes, Yahweh's calendar completely disregards the solar year or the sun year, which is one of the main reasons that mankind, under Satan's guidance and influence, has endeavored to change Yahweh's ordinance. Okay, so a scripture should pop to mind right now. Let me read this again, and maybe somebody will shout it out. Okay, so I'm going to go back just a little bit here. It says, Yahweh's calendar completely disregards the solar or the sun year, which is one of the main reasons that mankind, under Satan's guidance and influence, has endeavored to change Yahweh's ordinance. Daniel 7:25. Daniel 7:25, okay? They thought to change Yahweh's feast days and years and so on and so forth, right? Changing Yahweh's way. Okay, Daniel 7:25. It says, and he will speak great words against Yahweh and will wear out, mentally attack, and cause to fall away the saints of Yahweh and think to change times, Yahweh's feast days and laws, and they will be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. Okay, and this is under the influence and the guidance of Satan the adversary, to change Yahweh's way, to separate us from Yahweh so that we're not meeting with Yahweh, learning how to become like him. Okay, so how can there be peace, joy, and abundant living if no one's meeting with Yahweh to receive this training? So you can see how important time is. Okay, you can see how important it is to know how to keep track of time the way that Yahweh keeps track of time. Continuing on here. However, when Yahweh himself was the king of Israel, his lunar ordinances governed the civil affairs as well. So his calendar was not impractical then. King David was a man after Yahweh's own heart, okay, his own mind. And remember, this is the plan, Genesis 1:26, to make man like Yahweh. Okay, and the civil affairs, like Yahweh says here, okay, keeping the Passover according to these ordinances, these statutes, okay, meeting with Yahweh at all of his feasts. Okay, and when we go by the calendar, Yahweh's lunar calendar, we meet with Yahweh exactly when we're supposed to. No interference. Okay, it's very practical. You know, continuing on here, it says Acts 13:22, and this is talking about David being a man after Yahweh's own heart. It says, therefore, the civil calendar of the kingdom of Israel under David's rule was Yahweh's sacred lunar calendar, even up until the time of the destruction of what is called the temple, Beth Yahweh, the house of Yahweh, in the year of 70 AY. The lunar calendar was used. In the Encyclopedia Judaica, volume 15, on page 43, it says, in temple times, this intercalation, the addition of an extra moon when the barley was not yet in the green ear stage, was decided upon in individual years according to agricultural conditions. Tosifta, Sanhedrin 2:2, and Babylonian Talmud, Sanhedrin 11b. So it's saying that if the green ears of barley weren't spotted, then, hey, we got to go another moon. Okay, you got the 13th moon, right? And then here's the green ears of barley. Now it's the first moon. So this is how these things are done. And time is very accurate Yahweh's way. You keep the feast exactly when you're supposed to keep the feast, when you sight the moons. Here it says that Yahshua Messiah observed Yahweh's feasts, which were set according to the new moon of green ears of barley in temple times. Because the temple was not destroyed until the year 70 AY, only well after the temple had been destroyed, did Babylonian influence finally overwhelm Jewish teachings about the calendar. And remember what we just read in Daniel 25, where it says, Daniel 7:25, where it says, and he will speak great words against Yahweh and will wear out, mentally attack, to cause to fall away the saints of Yahweh and think to change times. Okay, just constantly, bringing forth this teaching, okay, these various teachings to separate us from Yahweh. Okay, very subtle, very patient is the adversary. Okay, these things didn't occur overnight. Okay, but through years and years, decades, centuries, of planning and scheming and subtly changing the hearts and the minds of the people. Okay, we read how it occurred to Solomon. Okay, we saw these things. We read these things. But it finally overwhelmed the teachings about the calendar. Although pagan influence had crept in the kingdom of Israel even during the reign of Solomon, hundreds of years before. And remember the attitude of the people, because we're going to be covering like, all of the scriptures, different time periods, the days of Solomon, the temple times, the time of Yahshua. But remember all of the history that we've learned concerning Yahweh's people, from, basically from Genesis all the way to Revelations, and how the children of Israel went into captivity, how a judge delivered, how Yahweh delivered them using a judge to free them from their bondage and so on. But remember the attitude that was always, present in Yahweh's people at that time. Of course you had righteous teachers, righteous judges and things like that. But a lot of times the dominant attitude, you'll see like what Jeremiah had to deal with. And keep this in mind. Okay, keep this in mind. Jeremiah 44. I'm going to go up a little bit, though, before I read this one part. But verse 44, verse 9, it says, "Have you forgotten the wickedness of your fathers, the wickedness of the kings of Yada, the wickedness of their wives, your own wickedness, and the wickedness of your wives, which they committed in the land of Yada and in the streets of Jerusalem? To this day, none are humble, nor show reverence. They have not walked in my law, nor in my statutes that I have set before you and your fathers." And he goes on, but then when it gets down to verse 16, this is how they responded to Jeremiah after he said, have you forgotten about all of this wickedness that's basically been passed down from generation to generation? Have you forgotten these things? And then they said to him in 16, "Concerning the word that you have spoken to us in the name of Yahweh, we will not listen." Okay, we're not going to listen to you. Okay, who made you a teacher over us? Who made you a ruler and king over us? Same attitude Moshe had to deal with. Okay, the same attitude that pastors had to deal with. "Instead, we will certainly do what we have vowed to do. We will burn incense to the we will burn incense to the Queen of Heaven and pour our drink offerings to her." So we're going to continue in our God worship. We're not going to change. We're going to continue to go on our solar calendar and celebrate Christmas, Easter, bake cakes, and do all of the things, birthdays, and everything that we were taught to do. Okay, we're not going to agree to our vows to Yahweh. Okay, didn't we make vows to Yahweh? We said we'll keep your laws, but they said no, we're going to keep our vows to Satan. We're not going to keep our vows to Yahweh. Okay, this is the attitude. Okay, so this is that like Pastor said a few weeks ago. We have righteous genes in us. That one gene may be saying do something right, but then you got the others. It's like do something. Do this here. But we have to feed righteousness. Okay, we have to allow the righteousness in us to grow, and this is why he was really emphasizing this studying. Taking every opportunity that we can to study. Okay, meeting with Yahweh in our studies, meeting with him on the Sabbath day and at his feast days. He's with us. So continuing on here, page 28. Okay, we just read how this influence had crept in, years before, but it finally overwhelmed these teachings concerning the calendar. It says here, "If Yahweh had not inspired King Josiah to stop the worship of the sacred pole, which Solomon had established to set his feast, Israel would not have returned to Yahweh's ordinance of setting Yahweh's feast according to the new moon of green ears of barley in Yahshua's day." And we read about Josiah a couple classes ago, when the book of the law was found and it was presented to the king. He tore his clothes and said, "Wow, look how far away from Yahweh we are. Okay, look at where we're at compared to what Yahweh, where he says we should be." And he turned things around. Praise Yahweh. Praise Yahweh for righteous men that he inspired to turn things around. And look at how far away we were before we came to Yahweh's house. Look at where we're at right now and how much further we know, we need to go in order to be just like Yahweh. But we've made this, we've made the changes so far. We're still growing in Yahweh, and he's rejoicing about that. Okay, he's rejoicing because we're here meeting with him, learning how to become just like him. Okay, again, time, meeting with Yahweh. Bottom of page 28, astrology. The study of astrology, a discipline which formulates general concepts of the universe based upon the assumption of a correspondence between movements of the sun, moon, and planets in the heavens and the movement of life on earth, has a long history of advancement. An advancement well before the study of the science called astronomy. Collier's Encyclopedia, Volume 5, page 105, tells us about the primitive development of astrology. Primitive development. Astrology appears to have its beginning in the primitive man's realization of the wonder of the waxing, waning, and eclipses of the moon, and a recognition of the correspondence of the seasons of the year with the sun's arrival at the equinoctial and celestial points. These are the most easily observed celestial data and are of overwhelming importance as soon as a people began to cultivate the soil. In Samaria and Babylonia, where records extend back to 3000 before Yahshua, in China to at least 1500 before Yahshua, and in the Mayan civilization, the chronology of which is questionable, astrology consisted at first solely of observing and tabulating these solar lunar data, and from them predicting the time and circumstances of their recurrence. This effort, which was truly scientific in the modern sense of the word, was followed shortly by attempts to correlate the solar lunar data with weather conditions. It was but a short step further to add the correlation of the solar lunar phenomena with mundane occurrences such as famine, natural disaster, war and peace, and victory and defeat. One more step carried the correspondence to the development in the life and fortunes of the ruling personage. So basically, it gets into fortune telling and, your zodiac signs, and, it's going to tell you that, hey, you're going to meet someone nice today and you're going to have a great date. Just because how the stars are lined up, you're going to meet someone wonderful. Hey, great days, right? In a stage of civilization in which the sun and the moon were regarded as supernatural, it was inevitable that the movements should have been enhanced with the trappings of a celestial religion. Okay, so you know what they're saying here? Basically, they're saying the same thing that the Apostle Shaul said in Romans. Okay, so it had the trappings to where, hey, look, this is some great stuff here. Let's worship it. Okay, turn it into a god. Okay, so in Romans 1, it says here they worshiped creation rather than the creator. Where is that? 25 here. Romans 1:25. Let's see. It's the last part. Who exchanged the truth of Yahweh for the lies, lords, gods, goddesses, and demons, and worshipped and served. Man, my pages are sticking together. They worshipped and served the creation rather than the creator, who is blessed forever. Praise Yahweh. So they started, creating religions and things like that based on, the stars and the different things in the heavens, And this is the astrology, with the zodiacs, the assigning of, the names of constellations to your birthdays and things like that. And he gets into this, though. We'll get into that, how it's broken up into 12 months and every section, has an assigned name and things like that. Let me keep reading here. It says, in a stage of civilization in which the sun and the moon were regarded as supernatural, it was inevitable that their movements should have been enhanced with the trappings of a celestial religion. The scientific data then becomes merely a means of determining in advance the wishes of the gods, thus establishing astrology's transition to an astral religion. Okay, so you can see that it's recognized that, look, this is God worship. Okay, it's God worship. It has nothing to do with Yahweh. Okay, has nothing to do with Yahweh. Yahweh says, I set these things in heavens so that you can keep track of time, so that you can know when I'm going to meet with you. Not to go out and bow down and worship these things. They're created things. Okay, these things were created, for you. It says here, not that purely astronomical investigation stopped. On the contrary, it accelerated and acquired an almost unbelievable degree of accuracy considering the lack of instruments in higher mathematics. But as a greater body of data was accumulated, the speculative thought of the priest astrologers, did y'all catch that? The priest astrologers, under whose direction it was gathered, ranged into wider and wider theological conceptions and naive conclusions. Okay, so you got these priest astrologers, but look at the top of page 28 again. Okay, it says one of the main reasons that mankind, under Satan's guidance and influence, has endeavored to change Yahweh's ordinances. Under Satan's influence. Remember what Jeremiah said? Jeremiah 23, right? Jeremiah 23. I think it's like 15. Jeremiah 23, 15. It says that, let's see here. Jeremiah 23, 15. Therefore, this is what Yahweh of hosts says concerning these prophets. Okay, these, as we see here, these priest astrologers, okay, because all of this is God worship. It says, behold, I will feed them with wormwood and make them drink the water of gall. From the prophets of Jerusalem, profaneness has gone out into all the land. Okay, because remember, again, remember in the beginning, there were two trees. Yahweh says, partake in this tree, learn my ways, set my feast according to this way and meet with me. This tree over here, don't partake in it. It's a mixture of righteousness and evil. Okay, dying, you will die. But then you have priests, like Cain was a priest. Okay, he wasn't a priest of Yahweh, but he had his own teaching. And we see how all the world has gone that way. So when we see these priests here, when we see these priests, we know that at one point, the origin, they knew Yahweh. As we see here in Romans, it says they knew Yahweh, but they became unthankful and unholy. And they did things that brought shame and death to themselves. But these priest astrologers, continue to make, assumptions. Said they came to, let's see here, the priest astrologers under whose direction it was gathered, ranged into wider and wider theological conceptions and naive conclusions. Okay, remember what Moshe wrote? It's in Deuteronomy 4. Where it says, what nation has their gods with them the way that Yahweh is with us? Okay, this knowledge, these laws, this body of laws, this is our wisdom and understanding. It guides us. Matter of fact, I think Yahweh actually says that. He says, this is going to guide you. Just want to turn it really, really, really quick. I'm not going to read all of it. Let's see. Man. Okay. Verse 4, verse 5. Okay, well, I know if I took the time to read it all, I'd find it. But anyway, Yahweh, I want to read that though. Is it 7? I'm looking for the part where it says, these laws will guide you. All right, I'll just keep on going here. Verse 8, let me see here. It says, and what other nation is so great to have such statutes and judgments? Nope, that's not the one. All right, I'm going to keep reading here, though. But anyway, this bothers me when I can't find something like that. Well, anyway, I'm going to read verse 6, though. This is one of them, but not the one I'm looking for. Therefore, be careful to observe and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations who will hear of these statutes and say, surely this nation is a wise and understanding people. But it's one where, and maybe it's not in this section here, but Yahweh says these laws will guide you. Okay, something like that, I will guide you. But anyway, and these priest astrologers, obviously they didn't retain the information of Yahweh, and they led the people astray. And that's what Jeremiah 23 is talking about. You didn't attend to my people. You've caused them to forget my name, forget my laws, and worshiping the stars, the moon, and all of these different things that I said not to do. Okay, not to do these things. It says all primitive astrologies consist of virtually the same material rules for weather and mundane predictions, lucky and unlucky days, and set formulas for traditional activities and rituals. Mayan astrology apparently never progressed beyond this point. Chinese astrology remains in substantially the same stage, and there is little evidence to support the contention that Babylonian astrology achieved a much broader interpretation before being supplemented by Greek thought. Certainly, however, the Babylonians' contribution to astronomical data is unquestioned. By the 2nd century before Yahshua, they were able to construct in advance inferiorities. Man, how do you say that word? Ephemerides? Ephemerides. Well, it's a table of planetary positions in the signs. And it says, man, this is about to tear me up today. Heliacal risings. That has to do with the sun, the star rise and things like that. Let's see, risings and settings and times and places of conjunctions and oppositions of the planets. So if it was the Babylonians who devised what is now known as the zodiac, which, by the way, is a Greek name for a Babylonian invention, about 500 years before the Common Era. That is, about 500 years before the birth of Yahshua, our Messiah, and about 700 years after the children of Israel entered Canaan. Collier's Volume 3, page 103 and 104 tells about the zodiac, which the Babylonians invented, and the Greeks' name. Give me 1 second, man. I need to turn to a scripture really quick here. I'm turning back to Isaiah 58. Someone just brought that information to my attention. I was mixing the scriptures up. So we read the scripture earlier. It was Isaiah 58:11, where it says, Yahweh will guide you continually, okay, and satisfy your soul, meeting with him on the Sabbath day. But for some reason, I was thinking that it was in Deuteronomy, but, it's the same principle. If we keep Yahweh's laws and keep them, then this is our guidance. This is our wisdom and understanding. So that scripture was Isaiah 58:11. Praise Yahweh. So continuing on here, let's see. Now I lost my place. Oh, the zodiac. Okay. So here, the top of page 30 says, zodiac. The primary division of the celestial sphere is called the zodiac. It is a band extending 8 degrees on each side of the ecliptic, or the apparent path of the sun around the earth, which is divided into 12 equal divisions or signs of 30 degrees. The Babylonians devised the zodiac about 500 BY and assigned to each sign the name of the constellation which occupied the greater part of the 30-degree area at that time. The starting point of the zodiac at 0 degrees is Aries, followed by Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpius, Sagittarius, Capricornus, Aquarius, and Pisces at 30-degree intervals. Okay? Most of us were brought up with this stuff. Okay? Whatever month you're born in, depending on the date, you know what sign you are. Okay? Our children don't know about this foolishness. Okay? Praise Yahweh. Our children don't follow this foolishness. And as we're reading this, who actually knew how you were assigned your zodiac sign? That is based on like this 8 degree broken up into 12 quarters, 30 degrees, blah, blah, blah. Based on the ecliptic earth, blah, blah, blah. Who knew that stuff? It was just like, oh, you're a Scorpio. It's steeped in this God worship. I mean, there was a lot of work that went into separating people from Yahweh. But all you get is, oh, you're a Pisces. What's that? Oh, you're a fish. This is all we get. We don't get any of the history, of the plan of separating us from Yahweh. We don't get any of that information. All of the stuff that people went through, they don't even know why they went through it. They just, man, look at the stars. I got it. Man, 12 degrees, 30 degrees. Man, all right, this is great stuff. But Yahweh says, no, just go look for the new moon so that you can know when to meet with me. So I can help you develop the character so you can be like me. That's all Yahweh wants us to do. And we're out here trying to figure out all of this other stuff. Okay, how simple did Yahweh make this? Okay, so you got these guys again, looking at this 30-degree intervals, 12 moons. Let's add this year. Let's take out this year. Blah, 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 right? Genesis 1:1. Yahweh created the heavens and the earth. Let's move on with life, man. I did all of this. Don't worry about this right now. Okay? What you need to be worried about is how to get along with your brother. But Yahweh, but look at the sun and the moon. I created that. Let's move on with what's necessary so that I can teach you about this stuff later on in life. You don't need to know how to make a sun right now, but I want that knowledge, Yahweh. Well, meet with me on my Sabbath days and you can qualify for that knowledge, but learn how to love your brother first. Okay, you see how simple Yahweh makes this? He makes it so simple, right? But what do? No, Yahweh, that's not enough. I'm not thankful with just knowing that. I need to know more. Okay? I need to know more. You know, I need to know how genes work. Hey, what if I put this rat gene in this tomato? Yeah, because rats got fur. The fur can protect the tomato. We got tomatoes year round, right? But what about the... I'm sorry. The children laughing, it made me laugh. I'm sorry, man. So I'm going to move on because I could tell stories all night. It's just when you think about how foolish, you know, we can be as mankind and how far away we are from Yahweh, you have to laugh at yourself, man. We have to laugh at ourselves. Say, Yahweh, thank you for calling me out of this, you know, and allowing me to meet with you so that I can straighten myself out. You know, praise Yahweh. You know, praise Yahweh. And I'm glad the children laugh and he's like, rat genes, who's going to put a rat in a tomato? They do these things, though. They do these things. So continuing on here, let's see. I'm going to start in that second paragraph here. It says, astrology subdivides the zodiac into 4 elements. And see, here's more. So it's not just broken down in 0 degrees, 12 degrees, 8 degrees, blah, blah, blah. Now, let's subdivide the zodiac into 4 elements by inscribing within the circle 4 equilateral triangles. Those apexes coincide with the equinoctial and celestial points, and placing the signs outlined by the points of each triangle in one classification, starting with the vernal equinox. The fire signs, Aries, Sagittarius, and Leo, are defined by the first triangle. Cancer, Scorpius, and Pisces, the water signs, by the triangle whose apex is the summer solstice. Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini, the air signs, by the autumn equinoctial point, and Capricornus, Taurus, and Virgo, the earth signs, by that of the winter solstice. So you have all of this here, and all Yahweh said to do is go look for a new moon. Amazing, right? Amazing. Babylonian astrology was placed into the hands of the Greek thinkers in the 4th century before Yahshua. During the Hellenistic age, judicial astrology, which was begun by the Babylonians and developed by the Greeks, deals with the relationship between the positions of the sun, moon, and planets and the life of an individual. Okay, so again, this is where you get into your horoscopes and things like that, how these things line up and how they affect your life as an individual. Judicial astrology had its basis in the concept that man is a miniature replica of the universe, and because of that, each individual reflects in himself and his circumstances the pattern of the heavens at the time of his birth, and that the pattern of the heavens at the time of his birth describes the individual. Okay. The pattern of man's life could therefore be charted on his horoscope, with the use of the zodiac. Okay, with the use of the zodiac. College Volume 3, page 103 tells us of the Greek and Hellenistic contributions. So Greek and Hellenistic contributions. In the interchange of culture between Greece and the Near East, but that followed up the conquest of Alexander the Great early. Now, according to Yahweh's way, is Alexander great? No. How are you classified as great? Right. Keeping Yahweh's laws. What scripture is that? Matthew what? 5:17, right? If you keep these laws and teach them, you will be called great. Alexander murdered people. Okay, he conquered and murdered many people. He will be called least in the kingdom of heaven, but he'll have an opportunity to repent. We'll be teaching him if he's willing to repent, like we read in Isaiah there. So here it says, Alexander in the 4th century before Yahshua. Let's see, Babylonian Chaldean astrology arrived and offered to Greek thinkers who are primarily preoccupied with the nature of the universe. Okay, not worrying about, hey, look, how is it that what do we need to do in order to get along with each other? They were trying to figure out how the universe was created and so on. And Yahweh said, look, I created the heavens and the earth. And then he went on in Genesis 1 and said, look, this is how I'm establishing things so that I can work with you, building in you this character. Okay, come to my house. Gets into Genesis 2, come to my house, Genesis 3. Don't listen to these guys. Okay, Genesis 4, you've been listening, now you're going to kill somebody. And now here we go, downhill, right? Downhill. Continuing on, they were worried about the universe instead of worrying about being like Yahweh. So it says here, a conception which was not only based on demonstrative data, but which also presented a broad enough frame of reference to embody many of the theories already crystallized. Okay, which means that a lot of these theories that they came up with took root. They believed certain things, possibly the Big Bang theory. Okay, oh yeah, that's sound doctrine. Okay, when I was thinking about these different sciences, I was reminded of another theory, in evolution, not so far, not about the heavens, but this is the aquatic ape theory. Y'all heard about the aquatic ape theory? Okay. I was remembering that and I just started laughing. And so I just, Googled the aquatic ape theory to see what was on there. And it's some goofy things out there, you don't need to go searching these things out, but it's amazing, what mankind and science and the things that they try to explain, the fact that we walk upright. There was one of these guys, I don't know if I think this part was like some fake documentary, but he was like, we walk upright because, while we're in the waters trying to look for food, we have to keep our heads up to breathe. Okay, well, that's a great idea. And that was followed by like monkeys in water, just, walking through the water, and that was like the premise of, that's why we walk upright so that we don't drown. And now that part was, that article was fake, but there's people who really, think like that though. There's people who, they don't give honor and glory to Yahweh. They don't meet with Yahweh to get, these things sorted out. So without Yahweh sorting out your thoughts and showing you like, no, that's absolute foolishness, then you're going to, whatever that makes sense. It's like, oh, you know what, that does make sense. I can see that, I don't completely understand it, but I can see how that's possible. No, the aquatic ape theory is not possible. We didn't come from monkeys. Okay, not possible. Okay, I don't care if a monkey is an excellent swimmer. We didn't come from that. Okay, not at all. We didn't start off as some single-celled amoeba and then eventually walked on land and became people. It's garbage, but without Yahweh, you could think of anything. This is why it's important, again, I'm going to continue to reemphasize it. This is why it's important to meet with Yahweh. If you don't meet with Yahweh, we're fools. Okay, we're fools. We have no understanding. And we just read it in Deuteronomy. Okay, when we meet with Yahweh, this is our wisdom. This is our understanding. And like it says here in Isaiah, these laws, these guide us. Yahweh's way guide us. Okay, and so we're not led off into this foolishness of thinking an explosion in space is how everything created. And then a monkey learned to swim, and then here I am. Stupidity. So continuing on here, it says, let's see, this guy, let's see, okay, so 4 elements, fire, air, earth, and water, were immediately correlated with the four astrological elements of the same names. Wow, it's all downhill now, man. I'm not going to get another word right tonight. The cosmogony of Plato. Now, cosmogony is the study of the origin of like the universe and things like that. See, I know what it means, but I don't know how to pronounce it. The cosmogony, or the study of the origin of the universe and the stars and things like that. These theories. Okay, so the cosmogony of Plato and the metaphysic of Aristotle raised astrology almost to the status of a divine science. Okay? These theories of the origin of being were largely responsible for the high regard in which astrology was held, not only in ancient and medieval times, but also after the revival of Greek culture and the Renaissance. Perhaps even more important to the latter life of astrology was the Stoics' concept of the unity of the microcosm, man, and the macrocosm, the universe, which offered a reasonable basis for the correspondence between celestial cycles and human activities. The Greeks, by thus transferring astrology from the realm of national or meteorological conditions to the affairs of the individual, gave a new vitality to the subject and established that branch of the astrology, genethyical, nativity, or judicial, planetary influence. Astrology, through which it is most generally known to this day. Okay, so it's talking about just how the stars align and how they're using those to determine what your future is going to be, how your life is affected or in harmony with the heavens. It says here, the last Greek astronomer, Claudius Ptolemy, who flourished in Alexandria, in the second century of the Christian era, contributed much to the survival of astrology. His most famous books, the Almagest and Tetrabiblos, were standard texts of astrology and astronomy for 1,200 years after his time. His Tetrabiblos is still used as an astrological textbook. Okay, so even now they're still using this information. Okay, still using this information. And what's interesting is that as I was going through these things, and really trying to remember and understand the difference between, astronomy and astrology, with astrology, part of the problem that astronomy has with astrology is that the maps aren't accurate. It doesn't take into consideration, I forgot what the term was, but it's a term that's used in astronomy that I think is precession. And it shows how the Earth on its axis, it turns, it rotates, it revolves around the sun, okay? It's constantly moving and changing. And so where the Earth may have been like at one point, so many, thousands of years ago, it's not at that same point anymore. So like at this time, maybe you're under, let's say, the Pisces sign, whereas now the Earth may be at that point again, but it's not lined up with those same stars because that chart hasn't been updated because of how the Earth turns and rotates. So it's going to be in a different location in this, in February, so to speak. So now you're not a Pisces anymore. You might be, let's say, a Libra, but they don't update that. Okay, so the Earth is constantly rotating and moving, but the positions of the stars are different. They're not the same. They're not in the same location, or position, to the human eye. So, there's various problems with astronomy and astrology that they differ, and it gets more into that as we go on here, though. But continuing on here, it says at towards the bottom of page 31, it was most definitely not the study of Yahweh's word and laws that were being taught by the Babylonians and Greek astrologers, astronomers in ancient times, nor do their teachings have anything to do with Yahweh's word and laws today. After the fall of the Roman Empire, astrology languished or became weak, and only evidently nurtured as a secret knowledge by the Jewish scholars of the Alexandrian schools, by whom the Jewish scholars it was introduced to the Arabic world, and by whom the Jewish scholars it was introduced to Spain. And again, we just read in Jeremiah where this profaneness has spread throughout the entire world because of these Jewish scholars, these priest astrologers who didn't retain Yahweh in their knowledge. Okay, but again, they became God worshipers. I would like to digress here and turn your attention to the fact that the Maccabees rebelled against Hellenistic Greek teachings when Antiochus, this guy here, attempted to introduce Greek god worship into Yada, just after Alexander conquered Palestine. There was a bitter struggle even then to keep pagan influence from overwhelming the people. There were Jews, Yadaim, who fell for the teachings of the Greeks at that time. For we see there were Jewish scholars who possessed secret knowledge of Babylonian Greek astrology. This secret knowledge, this secret knowledge. Astrology came into Europe during the Middle Ages through the universities of Spain in the 11th and 12th centuries after Yahshua, where they translated Ptolemy's work. The Almagest and Tetrabiblos and the Introductorium and Astronomium of, almost did it, almost got them all. Almost got them. Let's see, Al-Bumazar. In this way, the ancient study of astrology has been brought down and taught to this modern world almost intact. So see, they kept this God worship almost intact, but completely nailed Yahweh's way to a stake, right? Unbelievable what we hold on to and what we do away with. Let's see here. It says, but you might want to say the study of astronomy is nothing like astrology. Astronomy is a science while astrology is not. The idea, however, is simply not based upon fact. Collier's Volume 3, page 109, tells us about ancient astronomy. It says here, ancient astronomy. The need for a rough working rule to connect the rival solar and lunar reckonings of time appears to have been a compelling motive behind the development of a recognizably scientific astronomy by the Babylonian priestly schools of the last 3 centuries before Yahshua. Upon a sketchy foundation of observations, they constructed elaborate numerical tables and ephemerides, predicting the phenomena of the sun, moon, and planets with due allowance for the principal inequalities of their motions. They idealized the paths of these objects into the circle, which the Greeks later called the zodiac, divided into 12 equal signs. They also established an approximate common multiple of the month and the year, a 19-year period since called after its supposed Greek inventor, Meton, the Metonic cycle by which the church calendar is still governed. See also calendar, zodiac. Okay, so they're following this Metonic cycle, and the church is still following this and still not following Yahweh's way by searching or going out to look for the moon. The Babylonians conceived of the earth as a disk of land surrounded by a moat of sea and surrounded by a solid firmament. Below were the abode of the dead and the great deep. Babylonian astronomy stemmed partly from the practice of drawing from the configurations of the heavenly bodies omens as to the fortunes of the nations, judicial astrology of individuals, horoscope astrology. This superstition invading the Roman Empire dominated the life and the thought of Christendom until the rise of modern science. It is not yet wholly extinct, showing that this belief system that that you can look to the stars and know your future is still in effect today. You get your fortune tellers, these little palm readers, crystal ball people. You know, you call up the 800 number, pay like 99 cents a minute, and they'll tell you what your day is going to be like. Get the newspaper, they'll tell you what your day is going to be like. Okay, all of these things has nothing to do with the way of Yahweh. What does the scripture say? It says, who can foretell the future? Yahweh. Who did Yahweh say is going to tell the future according to Yahweh's plan? Pastor. He says, and they will foretell these things. Okay, pastor's not up here just trying to make up stuff. He says, I'm going to try to get everything right according to Yahweh's prophecy and tell you what Yahweh says. You know, he said Yahweh wants to honor his words. Okay, I'm going to tell you exactly what Yahweh says, and this is how it's going to be. Right? He's not making up stuff. Okay? He's not looking at the stars and saying, okay, so this is going to, okay. All right, people, in 2 weeks, blah, blah, blah. No. No. The source of all information, the source of knowledge is from the scriptures, okay, which is inspired by Yahweh to be written for us. It was written for us to gather this information. Yahweh, matter of fact, in Romans again, wow, this is the last scripture because I have to close. I thought I was going to cover 10 pages tonight. Man. All right, I'm sorry about that, man. At the same time, I'm not sorry. What was I looking? Oh, here it is. This is what I'm looking for. Romans 1, verse 20. Romans 1:20 says, for since the creation of the world, the invisible things of him are clearly seen, his eternal power and holiness being understood by the things that are written, so that they are without excuse. Everything that we need to know, Yahweh wrote these things down for us. Okay, he wrote these things down for us. And he's given us more because he's inspiring pastor, you know, to explain these things. So now we have the books of Yisrayl. You know, we have these other books, like the book we're reading right now, to explain what Yahweh had wrote down for us. These things are clearly written so that we can understand Yahweh's way. We don't have to try to make up something new. We don't need these ephemeриdes, however you say that, tables, to try to calculate, you know, the planetary alignments and things like that. Go look for the new moon and meet with Yahweh. Simple as that. Okay, meet with Yahweh, develop Yahweh's character, and become just like Yahweh himself. What page am I on so the Kahan can pick up there next week? 30 what? 30. Man, I only got to 31? No, I got past 31. I read 32 here. We got different books. So I'm on the Great Kahan to pick up at the bottom of page 32. Okay, the bottom of page 32. All right, man, may Yahweh bless your understanding.